Hello everyone. So in the last lecture, we saw regarding compliances and standards that every business needs to follow and how the cloud computing helps in that. In this lecture, we'll see more of the financial costs of the financial aspects of running a business or services, and we'll see again how exactly cloud can help you in that, right? So uh, we have, as you can see on the slide, two uh, terms, that is capital expenditure and operational expenditure, known as CapEx and OpEx as well. So before going into that, let me tell you that I know companies, in the past, companies needed to acquire physical uh, infrastructure to start their business, right? So that was a substantial upfront cost in hardware and infrastructure to start a business. Forget about growing. Obviously, if you want to grow, you have to add more uh, to your arsenal. But even to start, there's a lot of upfront cost in hardware and infrastructure. So cloud computing provides services to customer without this significant upfront cost or equipment setup time, right? So these are the two broad categories as you see on the screen, that is capital expenditure, also known as CapEx, and then the operational expenditure, also known as OpEx. So CapEx is basically spending of money on physical infrastructure upfront, and then is the upfront cost, and also has a value that reduces over time, because you buy a hardware and then you put it into your data center, you use it, obviously it is going to uh, degrade, the value is going to regress over time. And then obviously you have operational expenditure. So operational expenditure is like spending money on services and products now, okay, and there's no upfront cost, but it's kind of an day-to-day running costs that any enterprise or any company incurs on daily running, like there's power and all kind of things that is out there. So let's break it down. What exactly comes in CapEx computing costs, right? So first of all, you have server costs. So obviously, if you want to set up if you want to build your application, you need servers for that. So it includes all the hardware components, not just like servers we're talking about. There are a lot of different components out there, right? So all hardware components and cost of supporting them. Uh, whenever any company is purchasing any servers, they have to make sure about a fault tolerant design. They have to put redundancy in it, by various techniques like server clustering or redundant power supplies and all of those things. So that obviously has a lot of cost attached to it. And whenever they need to replace a server, again they again need to buy those things and pay for it. So this can definitely affect the immediate cash flow, because there's a lot of, I mean, these obviously are not cheap. All the servers, the high-end servers, high-end computing cluster, they are not cheap, and you'll have to pay upfront a lot of amount. Then you have storage costs. So again, all the storage hardware components and all the supporting components of the storage, like your there are a lot of storages in on-premises, like you have SAN based storage, you have NAS based storages, all different types of storages, right? So I mean, these are also expensive devices based on the design that you want. You want obviously fault tolerance and redundant design. So again, the cost shoots up. So you can create multiple tiers of storage, right? So the more expensive storage, fault tolerant storage, is used for critical applications, and then lower expense storage is used for low priority data, that is maybe your archival data. So maybe you can use faster SSD based storage for your critical application, and maybe you can use like tape devices for your archival data as well. Then you have networking. uh, so network cost includes all the hardware components, like your cabling, your switches, your access points, your routers, your firewalls, your WAN equipments, WAN optimizers and all of those. So there are a lot of internet connection, IP costs. So there are a lot of things that you need to do when you're setting up a data center. So yeah, network is a major part, and it costs again a lot to bring all the routers, switches, and cabling, everything done. Then you have backup and archive. Obviously, whenever you are running a business, you need to back up at least some amount of data that you have. So again, uh, there's a cost to backup, copy, or even archive data. So again, there are options that you can have backup to cloud. You can do that. So you have your primary data center where everything is running, and then you can just, instead of again paying a lot upfront to have a backup or archive capability, you can put your data into cloud as a backup. Then you have disaster recovery or business continuity and disaster recovery costs. So again, not only at the one server level, like you have fault tolerance and redundancy on server level, but as a business as a whole, also you need to have some disaster recovery options, how you can recover from a disaster and continue your business, right? You should your plan should consist of creating a disaster recovery site, a separate site, and it can include backup generators. Most of these are again upfront costs, especially if you build a separate disaster recovery site. There's an additional ongoing cost for again infrastructure and its maintenance. You have to maintain it, we'll have to test it, so that you say that okay, in case something happens, you know that it's working, and then you can fall back on that secondary site. Then you have technical personnel. So again, to manage all these equipments that you have purchased, whether it's server, storage, networking, or DR. So you need personnel to with certain expertise to manage all of these things. So again, you have network engineers, you have Linux or Windows engineers, you have your developers and all of those. So it takes quite a lot of people to even manage all of these things. So technical personal cost is also there. Then you have data center costs. So again, if you are building a data center, again, all these equipments that you purchase, you have to put it somewhere, right? So either you take a building or something, a property on a lease or rent, or even if you buy it, you'll have to create a building, and then you'll have to put all of these things together, right? So these are cost for construction and building equipment, as well as future renovation or remodeling costs that may arise as the demand grow. So again, a lot of other costs like electricity, floor space, cooling, building maintenance, all of those things are also there. So there's a lot of cost that goes into capital expenditure, and this is all upfront. So if you're a new business and then you're trying to build your own data center, it will be a lot of costs. So I mean, definitely one way is to go to cloud, and then you can forget about all these costs. Just get the services. Forget. No, you don't need to worry about uh, procuring hardware and maintaining them and building them, right? So you don't have to do that. You just go and take those services, build your application on top of it, and start serving your customers. Then again, you have OpEx costs. So again, uh, as we saw that in cloud, you have no capital expenditure, that you don't need to pay upfront something, right, for all of these costs, right? So you don't have to do that. So there is no uh, capital expenditure in when you're going for cloud, right? But definitely when you talk about operational expenditure, whatever you services you go ahead and purchase from them, and you use it however you use it, the operational costs are there, right? So with cloud computing, many of the costs associated with on-premises data center now are shifted to the service provider, that is cloud service provider. Now, instead of thinking about physical hardware and data center cost, cloud computing has a different set of costs, right? For and these costs, you can see, like, how much are you spending on services or products whenever you need, right? Again, it's a pay as you go model, so no upfront cost. Whatever you use, you go ahead and uh, pay for it. So major cost in operational expenditure is leasing software and customized features. So uh, obviously it is a pay per use model. So and then it actively requires managing your subscription to ensure that user do not misuse those services, and that they do not that the provision accounts are being utilized and not wasted. They are not over provisioned. People are not creating services just for the sake of it. Whatever is needed, only that much is created. So as soon as you uh, provision any resources, the billing starts. So if you spin a server in cloud, your billing will start. So make sure you are doing it in the right way, and then only. So one of the features, what happens is, in on-premises, since you have already bought all these equipment, you create a virtual machine or a server, and then you can keep it running because you have already paid for all of those things. So in cloud it is opposite. So when you create something, your billing starts, and as much as you use it, your billing will uh, keep growing. So when you're using it, then keep it on. If you're not using it, turn it off. That is the way to go for cloud if you want to minimize your costs. So deprovisioning the resource when they are in use so that you can minimize your costs. So again, scaling based on your usage or demand instead of fixed hardware capacity. So again, in on-premises data centers, so you have fixed number of hardware and you can run fixed amount of services on them. If you want to grow, you'll have to purchase additional equipment. But in cloud, uh, you can scale anytime you want. If you have 10 servers today supporting a particular application and you are growing, you can certainly the next day create 10 more servers to help that growth. And then you can, again, your billing will increase, but again you don't need again upfront cost for buying all these equipments. Based on the usage, you will bill. So again, billing at the user or organization level. So again, with cloud pay-per-use model, your computing billing method is designed for your organization and users. So uh, you can scale, you can customize and provision computing resources, including your software, storage, or development platforms. So like example, when a dedicated cloud service, when you're using a dedicated cloud service, you could pay based on server hardware and usage. So I mean, you can differentiate the billing based on the departments and organizational level. So if your organization have multiple different departments, like you have production, you have uh, marketing, HR, and all of them are using these cloud services. So you can track which organization is using how much, and then you can again basically generate funds or release funds accordingly for those departments. So that is all about CapEx and OpEx. Thank you for joining in.